Hey there, clan. Welcome to another DM vlog episode. Figured I'd do another one of these. Once I got permission from my other groups that I play in to do these, I'll be doing another DM one here, and then probably maybe the next couple of days or a week or two, I will do a player one. So, let's dive into this one. Now, this is my group that I've been playing with and DMing for about 2 to 3 years now. They are currently level 9. And there's a lot of background I'd have to give, but I'm just going to give a quick description, a quick as possible one I can do at the moment before we dive into the current session that we were just at. So for context, we've got 5 players at the moment. We did start with more, but of course D&D, people go away, lose interest, that kind of thing happens. So we've got 5 players. We have a Oath of Devotion paladin named Xeon, swashbuckler rogue called Xanos, who's a Tritonian. Also, ASMR Paladin, by the way, forgot to mention that. Tabaxi Ranger Fighter called Sealoud, who was Cloud, but now we call him Sealoud. Calzar, who is a Life Domain Cleric Goliath. And a Warlock Bard called Inferno, who we love to call Effie. So we've got quite a diverse group. And again, we've been playing for about 2 or 3 years at this point. And so there's a lot to unpack. To give a quick summary as best up to date, I might do other videos where I'll talk about where they've all come from, maybe go session by session, because I still have the notes. It's all on my Google Drive, so I could easily go back and look at those. Maybe I'll do a breakdown of some of the sessions I've done. But let's dive into this. At the current state of the party at the moment, they are in possession of they kind of, not possession, they kind of own a city at the moment, which was originally known as the Forge of Vandora, but they have recently renamed it to the Solemn Subterra. Now, the initial plot hook I made up for this city was not for them to claim it as their own, but for them to save it, defeat the dragon that was there, a adult black dragon, or I believe it was. So it was a tough fight, but they did manage to beat it. They... They were supposed to have a negotiation with the dwarves who once owned this city and the Torchhead Empire, who is the current ruling power in my setting at the moment, and the continent that they're playing on, the continent of Tagar, in my own custom setting. Should probably have started with that. Custom setting called Varuna, and they're currently on the continent of Tagara. And the Torchhead Empire kind of rule there in a sense, but they're very much a human-ruled nation, kingdom, empire, but they basically have a diverse race. All are welcome in the Torchhead. So it's kind of like they were initially meant to negotiate and basically decide who gets the city. Do the dwarves get the city? Do they claim it as ancestral? Or do the humans get it? The reason this city was so important was because it had one of the only mithril veins in my setting. So the dwarves, of course, obviously wanted it and claimed it as their own, and the party quite ingeniously this was mostly down to Xeon, who is very good at role playing and played the paladin very well, and kind of put forth an argument that the party eventually agreed on to be their base of operation, which I thought was quite ingenious. And with a couple of persuasion checks, they eventually decided that actually happened, and the Torchhead were the ones who decided to help them out, because the dwarves, being stubborn bastards, that's how they were, but they were very close to actually having the dwarves on them, but due to a couple of other dice rolls, they unfortunately pissed off the dwarves. So that happened. So due to this agreement that they have with the Torchhead, they basically have agreed to the Torchhead that the Torchhead will allow to basically help build the city back up, repair, and do such things like that, but also the party can be requested to go and help at the Torchhead from time to time, with compensation, of course. So that's kind of the agreement they have at the moment, and the current mission that they are on just comes after, unfortunately, a player death. Not a player death, a character death. One of the person who's playing Sealoud, the ranger, was also playing a custom homebrew warlock class that I'd made, which was basically kind of the hug. I believe I called it the Pact of the Abomination. And unfortunately, after their last encounter, which was with a group of Mind Flayer mutated Illithid, kind of like Mind Flayer humanoid mutated barbarian clan, yes, I'm evil, Unfortunately, they got a bit more involved in it than they initially planned, and resulted in fighting the entire army, the entire clan, sorry, and resulted in unfortunately losing a player. It's just how the dice roll. No resurrection because they didn't have the head, and yeah, the player who was playing Sealoud and this Warlock, who was called Torn, Dragonborn, probably felt better. Hopefully feels a little less relieved than running two characters. But it was a tragic death. It was my first time killing a player character, and it was not easy, and I still feel bad about it, but that happens. But going from there, they have been sent out to go and investigate going to use the word here, a terrorist attack on a place called Duqueta in my setting, which is basically a healing and herbalist village in the Torchhead that basically is the main kind of religious folk of the Temple of Angia, who is the deity of basically elements in my setting of nature, earth, wind, fire, water, air, that kind of thing, and known for healing mostly. So the party was sent out to investigate that, and they, through some very good role-playing and some very good rolls, and some bad ones, they were able to determine that it looked like the explosion that basically rocked the temple that was attacked seemed to have been Sempstrom's, and they, with some good perception checks, were able to notice 3 individuals in the crowd who were a little bit different than everyone else. 2 emaciated-looking, dark-skinned, well, I think I remember like kind of greyish skin tone. Mostly still looking humanoid, but kind of a pale greyish colour to them. And a figure in an alley who was taking notes. The ranger, of course, rolled the highest perception to notice that, and I reward high rolls because I was just like, yeah, you weren't supposed to see that, but you rolled high enough. So they did that. They confronted the person in theirs along with the Xanos, did it, Xeon and Sealoud both confronted this person who looked human and introduced themselves as Dr. Nova, who just basically tried to explain away, and she rolled very well on her deception, I'll be honest, to basically say that she's just taking notes. She's just observing, she's passing through, she is a doctor. Of course the party was suspicious, but they're very good role players, thankfully, so they didn't try and call it. They did, however, try and confront the 2 individuals in the crowd, which resulted in some combat due to the fact that these people were a custom creature that I had created. They are what in my setting what is known as brute siphons. And Sealoud, of course, chased one of them down. Xeon chased the other one. Sealoud and caught one in a corner in an alleyway after hitting him in the leg, taking an arrow to the knee. Yes, the ranger shot a person in the knee, because he did specify that. And it was a nice little surprise for him when this person grew to be about, I think I would say, about 10 to 12 feet tall, and punch him from the alleyway to the other side of a building and almost through the wall. These brute siphons were quite beastly, so there was 2 of them. Not what I planned on happening, but it happened because I'm never prepared for my players. But that's what happened, and the issue is now the thing that they eventually figured out while fighting these creatures was that magical items seemed to be nullified whenever they were in a certain radius of them, and also any magic spells of healing or damage seemed to be half as effective whenever cast within a radius of them. So they figured that out fairly quickly and avoided using magic. They still used a bit of here or there to try and do it, and some spells went off, some didn't. And then the Bard decided to use, Effie decided to use a level 9 lightning bolt through a wand of lightning on one of them, which resulted in something, but we'll get to that in just a second because I want to cut to Xanos, who was trying to basically track down the doctor and was on the other side of the town, so split the party. She did eventually find the doctor, who was on a rooftop, and had a minor confrontation with her. She was not rolling too well, sadly, on attack, so didn't really do any damage to her. But did basically stalled her long enough to do it. And Dr. Nova, of course, teasing and just basically, I'm just a doctor, I'm here to investigate, dropping the illusion and revealing her to be of a ASMR descent, with a kind of, I remember, like ashen grey skin with basically black eyes with almost like embers in her eyes with like crackles of fire. I just like that. I just like that descriptor. It's really cool. With kind of ashen blonde hair. But yeah, they had a bit of a skirmish up there. It was a bit of a back and forth. I could see that it was getting a little irritating for Xanos just from the way the interaction was going. She was rolling not too good, sadly, that night. But back to the group, after the level 9 lightning bolt, they soon learned that was a good move, except when the brute siphon that it was used on, who had pretty much almost knocked Sealoud unconscious, exploded. And they figured this out eventually, because I did read it out to them, that once these creatures that I made absorb about 7 levels worth of spell slots, there is a 50% chance of them exploding, dealing, I think I did a ridiculous amount of damage. I think I did it was either 10d10 or 12d12. I think maybe 10d12 maybe off the top of my head. I don't remember the exact notes. I think they're around here somewhere, but how do I make this video any more stupid looking than it is? But yeah, and I had Effie roll the percentile because I didn't want that to be on me, and he sadly rolled for it to explode. With 3 of the party members within 50 feet radius because the explosion was 50 feet, and the paladin, who was literally 5 feet out away from it. I rolled good on the damage, and I think Effie saved on the deck save, Sealoud failed, and so did Cal. The 2 that didn't make it went unconscious almost instantly, and Sealoud was 3 points away from insta-death. And Effie barely hung on, but he was able to heal up, and he feels a bit guilty about it. They did eventually take out the last brute siphon. The paladin of the group is currently in possession. Well, he didn't have it at the moment, but he does in possession of a fire giant strength spell, but that was nullified. But even then, paladins still do a ridiculous amount of damage on a single attack. Dr. Nova, of course, with Xanos, decided to peace out and sprout wings and possibly cast a spell to peace out of there and disappear. After that, the party were a little bit conflicted about what to do. They did eventually say they wanted to try and track down Dr. Nova, so Sealoud and Xeon decided to try and go in the direction she was going, and I made a DM mistake because I did a bad descriptor of how far it was to the next town, because they wanted to head to the next town. The rest of the party decided to have a wee look around, and we've all been there when it comes to DMs of the I am literally trying to tell you where to go without blatantly holding a neon sign up saying where to go, because I had dropped a few hints here or there in the session before and the current session that we just had about a farmhouse that was taking some of the local inn's business. And yeah, I was literally on the verge of holding a giant neon sign up and saying this is where you have to fucking go. But they did eventually figure it out, and the Xeon and Sealoud did come back eventually after almost making it to the next town. With a night's rest, I don't want to say one thing because something did happen to Xanos, but I don't want to say it because I know some of my players watch these videos. It says they're going to watch these videos anyway, so I don't want to say what happened to her, but she did make a save, and I'll say that's all I'll say. Effie, on the other hand, had an encounter with his patron because he is a warlock bard, or ward as I'm going to call them now, who was very displeased with him after he failed to convince the party he didn't fail to convince, he probably could have convinced them, basically talked the party out of taking a battle against one of Mamoon, the archdevil of greed and wealth, I believe, in my setting. He's from the Tome of Beasts, but I've reworked him to fit into my setting because I like taking stuff and reworking it. But yeah, he had a battle encounter with him and was basically very displeased that he didn't, say to the party, hey, no, you're going to want to come out and you can free this slave that has been talking to Effie about freeing him. He was not happy about that. And basically, Mamoon and the way I'm playing him is very much like, I don't want to kill you. If I kill you, I can't get money off you. That's all I want. I want money. So you basically worked out a deal with the FA to say a couple of $1,000 gold a month, I think say like 5k a month, and you're fine. Until I deem otherwise. And then FA tried to talk his way out of it, and as you know, bards, they are talkers, and he rolled like a 31 on persuasion, and I made the DC 30, and he convinced Mamoon to forget the deal, and Mamoon was very impressed and gave Effie a diamond. the size of his head, because you cheered me, you made me laugh, here's a diamond. This caused a little bit of a scuffle between Xanos and Effie, because Xanos has a little bit of a magpie complex to her when it comes to shiny things, which resulted in the diamond being destroyed, but keeping the shards and things like that. So it was a nice little bit of party conflict, and we've been playing long enough that party conflicts are known that they are just about the characters and not about the player, which is a very good thing. It takes a while to get that kind of rapport with your players, and thankfully these ones picked up fairly quickly. So yeah, that was a interesting thing, but they did eventually go and investigate the farmhouse, which through some investigation checks were able to determine that the crops that were being grown were not the best, and also that the farmer who was there was acting a little bit shady, and that there were 4 scarecrows in the forest and the field, basically, where they were just scarecrows. They're not scarecrows. But as far as the party were aware, they were just scarecrows. The reason I can say this is because they came to life eventually. But they did narrowly avoid another encounter with a brute siphon, maybe a lesser brute siphon, let's just say, with the farmer who was also basically been infected by something. But they were able to render the farmer unconscious before he transformed. Sealoud, of course, had flashbacks. And they did eventually basically tied the farmer up, were asking kind of scaring the farmer's daughter and the wife, who had also shown signs of starting to transform, before Dr. Nova was just like, fine, I'll introduce myself. And they went, I believe Sealoud and Cal stayed outside of the laboratory, because they found that Dr. Nova just let them into her basement laboratory through through an illusionary doorway down into her thing, which was very much your mad scientist. That's kind of how I was playing her, how I created her, was that she's a mad scientist, but all she cares about is her experiments. But she did put up a argument with the paladin, of course, to be very much like, look, I am just here. All the people you've seen are volunteers. I give them money to their families. They come, they do this. I'm very clear and transparent with what happens. They fully know what they are getting into. That kind of thing. That's kind of how I was playing her. And, of course, the paladin, Xanos, who's a little pissed off at Dr. Nova, and even Effie, were very much, no, when very much wanted her to be brought to justice. So she played her trump card, which that she said that she had infected at least 20 people who had passed through and stayed at this farmhouse, in a way, that they were all over the continent at the moment, and that they could possibly result in them exploding. And if you want me to give you the list of their names, I want to be let go. I want to have nothing. I want no one to pester me on my way out. No tracking, no nothing. And that kind of got the paladin being like, shit, because he's a Path of Devotion paladin, so he has to respect the laws of the land, but at the same time he also has to protect the innocent. And Xanos, I should probably say that I accidentally gave the party a large sum of money at one point with a treasure golem. I think they had like 250,000 gold pieces at one point. I did steal it. The Thieves Guild stole it. And with that money, they did buy some magical items, get some custom made. And one of the things that they got made, Xanos got made, was a hidden blade. She currently owns a brothel, because that's why. And one of the gnomish brothel workers there was also a tinkerer, and made her a mithril dagger hidden blade. And the way I made it up was that if you can get a surprise round off with this blade and attack, it's an automatic critical. Because it made sense, like it's hidden, you're not going to see it. And Xanos decided to approach Dr. Nova in not an aggressive way, but very much in a I don't like you, I'm going to fuck with you eventually, I will find you kind of thing, and proceeded to stab her in the neck with the hidden blade. I did roll something and Dr. Nova did not expect it, so it was technically a surprise round, and I think Xanos dealt, I think it was somewhere in the range of 40 to 50 points of damage in a single attack, because level 9 rogues. And yeah, that took out a very large chunk of Dr. Nova's hit points. So yeah, we ended the session there because it was a good way to end it. But I did also say to the people outside of the Sealoud and Cal, that the scarecrows that they were watching came to life and started charging towards them. So next session, we're starting with combat. Dr. Nova did also summon, via a magical gem, a Ice Elemental Meridon, I believe that's how it's pronounced. They are in the Tome of Beasts, but they only have Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. I did make an Ice one instead. These are basically elementals with armor and are designed to be fighters. So yeah, they've got a Dr. Nova who is a arcane user of some kind. I haven't told the party what she is yet. I'll give a little hint. Think Terry and Darrington for any Critical Role fans out there. But yeah, they've got her who has some spells at her disposal. She's had a long rest, so she's fully recuperated. And a Ice Myriad and some Scarecrows, which are not from the Scarecrows from the Monster Manual because I had to tweak them. The joys of being a DM when you have high-level players and you want to use stuff from low level. So yeah, that is where they currently are, and it's definitely a good example of, like, you can never expect what your players are going to do. Now, I might do a video breaking down each session that I've had with these people, because I still have all my notes with their permission, and go into some more detail of what their characters are like and that kind of thing, and basically what's happened with them so far. I'll have a little think about not to do that, and I may also, if you are interested, do a video on my own setting in which we're playing in, which is called the World of Varuna. It's been one I've been working on since I was 16 or 17, initially for a novel, but then I just made it into my D&D setting. But yeah, it's a fun time to play in your own custom setting. They've definitely made me add things to my setting that I'd never thought of. The Torchhead especially had to be flushed out a lot more than I initially had. And I genuinely love these players because they are so good at role-playing and so good at understanding that I'm not a fucking asshole, I swear. I love it. I love playing with them. They're always a delight. And just an example of that session there is the kind of stuff that they can throw at me and surprise me with, because I was not expecting them. I was expecting them to be like, hey, okay, Dr. Nova, give us a list of people. You go, but we're going to find you. Next time we see you, we're going to kill you. Instead, because Dr. Nova pissed off Xanos, she got a freaking hidden blade to the neck. So yeah, that is definitely threw a massive wrench into my works. We'll see what happens with Dr. Nova next time. I'm definitely excited to see what happens. But yeah, that's where I'll wrap this video up there. I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know what your DM stories, D&D or player, DM or player, and I'll see you all next time. Ciao for now.